All right, folks. 3, 2, 1. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to our regularly scheduled Wednesday morning meeting, January 15th, 2025. My name is Tom Tobin. I'm Sergeant of Arms, and glad to see all your bright, shiny faces out there. I want to see how tough you are next week when the weather is really cold. But I'm impressed. I'm impressed. So let's see. May I have Father Joe up to lead us in an invocation?
Look, you guys are on camera.
We see it.
Almighty God, you brought us safely to the beginning of this day. We ask you to give us the grace to be mindful of your presence throughout the day. Mindful of the needs of others, and always eager to do your will. Give us this day a good day. Our meeting, be with us in all the things that go on, and help us to have a day in which we look back at the end of it, grateful for all that you've done for us. These things we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. All right, and Ralph Day is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the four-way test this morning. Ralph, take it away. Go ahead. All right, I'll start. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. And the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, good.
1,
Is it the truth?
2,
Is it fair to all concerned?
3,
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
4.
Will it be beneficial to all concerned? All right, thank you, Ralph. I appreciate that. I think I left the for a second week. I think I left the list of birthdays and anniversaries out in the other room, so we'll do that next week. Have candy? I mean, we could do that. Oh, okay, super. Let's do that. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we got some January birthdays. We actually have quite a few. So let me list them off. We'll sing happy birthday afterwards. Chris Barker, January 1st. Liz Koala, January 3rd. Mike Swain, January 8th. Philip Budo, January 16th. Joel and Joe Boisel, January 17th. George Snyder, January 25th. Ralph Day, January 27th. Warfield, January 28th. Phil Warburton was kind of honorary January 31st. So let me lead us in happy birthday for these folks. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. All right. And then we have a few anniversaries here. Terry Bordnick has been a Rotarian for 4 years. Catherine Sines, 12 years. Evan McCauley, 10 years. And we have Tom Vince down also, I think an honorary or, okay, this one will blow your mind, 55 years. Yeah, we love Tom. So, all right, let's see, what else do we have? We have one guest this morning, Anthony. Anthony, I didn't, tell me one more time your last name. Primraj. Anthony Primraj is with us for the second week this week. So everyone, please make sure you say hello to him. Yeah, very good. All right, and so our fearless leader is missing this morning. I don't think he was feeling well last night. So Keith is stepping into the gap for us, and I'm glad. So please, everyone, welcome Keith Veers, our leader.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How about that? I came prepared, right? I had the anniversaries and the birthday, so I haven't screwed it up too badly so far. So, not really sure exactly off the top of my head the flow of everything. I know we have a wonderful speaker today, so I don't know if we go right into the speaker right now and I go over some announcements. Pardon? Announcements right now. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Learning on the fly here. So in our past meeting, January 8th, President Kelly, he led a club-wide discussion regarding our past and future goals, and we're looking for volunteers for the officer and board positions for the 2025-2026 year for the Rotary Club. So again, if there's anybody out here that is interested in participating and becoming a board member, we would certainly love to have you reach out to Kelly to express your interest so we can look at talking with you and putting the slate of board members together for our upcoming year. It's going to be here before you know it. It's already the middle of January. We are looking for 4 Rotarians to assist Hudson Community First with their at-the-door guest registration for the Taste of Hudson fundraiser on Friday, February 21st. This would be from 5:30 to 7 o'clock. As I'm sure you know, we've been working together with each other to help our fundraising events. They helped us last year by providing some workers for our gala so that everybody who's part of the Rotary Club can enjoy and experience the gala for themselves. So we definitely need to have some representation for their event. So if there's anybody that would be willing to participate, I believe, are you handling that, Marilyn? Please reach out to Marilyn. Have you found anybody yet okay, you have one person? You have everybody? You have 5, okay. Well, there you go. I'm going to take credit for that because I am going to imagine that when I started talking about this, there was nobody, and just because of my stylish tones here, everybody just ran over the real quick and volunteered. So thank you very much for those who are participating. And then, let's see, Terry Bortnick is collecting funds for the Salvation Army efforts to assist California fire and hurricane victims. So again, I think we all know what has been going on out in Los Angeles this past week. Very horrible situation. It's still continuing. It's not over yet. I'm not sure if there was any issues this morning. I know that they were saying that they were expecting this winds to pick up again. So, if you can participate in some way with the Salvation Army for Terry to provide some relief and assistance to the individuals that are out there. Again, we also don't want to forget those who are affected by the hurricane not too long ago as well. So that'd be greatly appreciated. Real quickly, Tom, how's your dad doing? Okay. Dad's coming home tomorrow, and he's doing very well. So we're very happy. We're keeping your father in our thoughts and our prayers for a speedy recovery. We miss seeing him, and we're looking forward to when he returns. Hopefully soon. He's a great man. So with that, I believe those are all the announcements. So I'm going to ask Dave, are you going to come up and introduce our wonderful speaker who I had the opportunity to get to know a little bit this morning? Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Good morning, guests and fellow Rotarians. It's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker. I'm really looking forward to this, and I hope you will find it interesting as well. Shamitra Roselle, LAC, is a compassionate healthcare professional with a Master of Science in Traditional Chinese Medicine from the New York College of Traditional Chinese Medicine. She is a licensed acupuncturist in Ohio and a certified diplomate of Oriental Medicine through the National Certification Commission for Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine. With a holistic and integrative approach, Shamitra blends the wisdom of traditional Chinese medicine with personalized care, addressing the mental, physical, social, spiritual, and environmental aspects of each individual's well-being. She maintains a practice in Twinsburg. Her speaking this morning will explore the fascinating history of acupuncture, tracing its origins in ancient Chinese medicine to its modern applications worldwide, delve into evidence behind its effectiveness, and examine how this centuries-old practice is used to manage pain, reduce stress, and improve overall health. Please join me in giving a warm Rotary welcome to Shamitra Rizal.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Happy bright early morning. Thank you guys for having me. Just a show of hands, have you guys ever had acupuncture? Okay, a couple. We got a couple. Have you ever heard of acupuncture? All right, there we go. So, yeah, this is a profound medicine that I found my way into. I'm so happy that I did because I just know and see all of the benefits that it makes to folks. Pain, anxiety, who have long-going things that are happening to them, and being able to help people in that way is just so cool. Because I see that there's a lot of discourse with Western medicine and how sometimes it might not help because you feel like your practitioner is actually listening to you. But we listen and we get to the root of the cause. So here I just want to kind of show you guys some history. It's a long-winded history because it is a very ancient medicine. So we can get right into it. So let's go back in time. I have a little comic here, and it's just, the early acupuncture. You can see this guy's got his backpack fixed by them wearing what's it called? So the ancient origins. So we can take this back to about 3,000 years ago in China. We have here is what is called a beyondstone. And so they didn't have the needles that we have today, obviously. So they were using things that were just kind of like stones that were kind of like a sword, right? Or had a sharp edge that could stimulate points. And so when we think about this medicine as well, we were, as a civilization, humans in ancient times, we were more involved with nature. So this is kind of the basis of what acupuncture really is we're kind of seeing ourselves in nature, reflecting in nature. So we have the practices being rooted in natural healing practices. We were using sharp stones. We were also maybe even using bones for stimulation. And you kind of see that here we have some other things, other tools that were being used. So again, we were used to things that were in like nature as far as herbs go and plants and medicine in that way. So we now use these to this day, these two modalities, cupping and moxibustion. Moxibustion is Chinese mugwort, and it's a plant that gets dried out, and you can use it to burn on either needles or just put it on. There's different applications to it. But what it's doing is warming, and it's got a magic property to it. I definitely see the magic happen every time. So it's a beautiful plant that actually helps assist with like heat, bringing heat to the body. And then we have cupping, where you can see this was also probably used from animal horns or bones and shaped into a cup. You can also heat these as well, and there's different modalities for that as well. But I think it was just fascinating that we could use these things and still have them to this day. So when we get to it, I'm going to kind of just break down a little bit like different areas of where we have different formations of Chinese medicine, and they're all pretty fundamental. There's a big expanse of, it was really hard for me to kind of just dial in and say like key points to things. But so in Warring States, in Han Dynasty, we have the formation of meridian theory. And this is also the formation of early literature, where we have classics of moxibustion, spiritual pivot, which actually starts to talk about the 12 channels in our body compared to nature. The 135 points that could be stimulated and used in acupuncture, the classics of difficulties. So all these books are really just theories that people were just sitting there and they were thinking about towards nature, into the human body, and how we interact and how we can apply these things to our like everyday and healing. So next we would get to the 3rd century CE. So we have this first foundational text, systematic classic Acu and Moxa and Zhenju Zhaijing. And so here we have this being our basis of everything culminating together with acupuncture. acupuncture. So here we have the introduction to 349 locations and points with all having indications. So when we have our points on our bodies, and I'll get into this a little bit later, but they all have indications. So they all do certain things within our body based off of different theories. And so then we can see here, we also have our needles being refined to the thin flexible needles that we have today, which are stainless steel, and very, very thin. But here I have an image of what the 9 needles were at first. And these were like still carved out of stone, just used in different ways. And some of them we do kind of could use in different modalities within the practice, but we don't use anything that's bigger than like literally like a hair filament. So not to be scared or anything, I'm not using these when we're getting treated. The next is the Tang Dynasty. And this is where acupuncture education became accessible. So people are coming to the schools to learn it. This is where verification and standardization of points in acupuncture is being acknowledged by the government. So it's kind of becoming more standardized here. And in the Ming Dynasty, we have more of the another great ancient literature, which is called the Great Compendium of Acupuncture and Masturbation. So these are things that I studied in school as well, kind of referring back to them and really getting to know what these texts are really saying. And Acupuncture department eliminated the Imperial Medicinal Academy as well here. So these are just things that are kind of moving forward with this progression of how it became. So in the Qing Dynasty, we have that practices started to decline here. And here we can kind of see that like herbal medicine became more prominent when Western medicine was also becoming a little bit more prominent. So I believe that the theory was kind of a little too much for folks, and they started like believing more of like the herbal medicine because it was more tangible. And then that's where also we have moxie being developed. So before, we were putting little bundles on people and using it, and with a moxie we can use it not so directly, but so this is another fundamental aspect to our medicine. So we'll reach the mid 20th century now, and so now we're getting a little bit more modern here. There's a lot of things that do happen in between this time where different forms of acupuncture are developed. We have like electrical stimulation that was, I don't have it on here, but E-stim, so electrical acupuncture was developed, different modalities as far as auricular, so the ear acupuncture was also developed, and all of the above. So here in the mid 20th century, we have journals from the Eastern perspective kind of popping up, and they were translated with the knowledge that the forefront of acupuncture was a real tangible thing, and acupuncture was also revitalized by the Chinese government as part of traditional Chinese medicine at this time. And so we're also seeing it's gaining global recognition at this point, and especially after the 70s when Nixon went to China, and he highlighted its effectiveness. There was another case where there was a government official who had to get an emergency procedure done and saw that acupuncture was effective because he had got it used for anesthesia for his procedure. So I believe I don't think I put that in there, but that was another thing that I noticed and saw that was like kind of fundamental to why acupuncture was effective and why it started to gain its popularity again. So in 78, we have the legislation of which was establishing acupuncture as a primary health care position. So this eliminated requirement for prior diagnosis for referral, so from other practitioner or a doctor rather. So you can just come to us directly at this point. You didn't need to have a referral to see an acupuncturist. In 1982, this is the formation of the National Certification Commission for Acupuncture in Oriental Medicine. This is what I'm licensed under, and what all acupuncturists are licensed under in the United States. So this is founding the national organization that validates the entry-level person coming out of school, out of their education, to be claimed as a professional with their documents and competency and, their licensure. So, just for kind of to let you know what that looked like, it was a year of studying for my boards. I took 3 of them for the state of Ohio. Some states you can only take 2 and you'll be fine. So we take a Western bio, we take a acupuncture location points, and then we take foundations, which is the theory of everything. So it's 100, each test is 100 points, and it's adaptive, so it changes as you go. So it's very, very stressful, but it was a very eye-opening experience just to see like how this is being implemented and what they want us to know for our licensure here. So let's talk about what acupuncture is exactly. I always kind of, and I will preface this that I'm going to kind of talk about some theories here, and they're kind of just have an open mind about them, and then we'll kind of get into the scientific. Okay, so when we look at acupuncture, we think of holism. And I have the definition here. And this is the theory that all living matter or reality is made of organic and unified wholes that are greater than the simple sum of their parts. So it's an investigation or a system of treatment. So when we think about this, right, we think about, again, how we are relating to nature. So everything is a whole, everything is interrelating. And so in Chinese medicine, we can see this as treating the whole person, considering the mental, the social factors, rather than just the symptoms of an illness. So we're thinking about how someone thinking about something with anxiety, maybe, or how is their workplace stress really affecting their body in a way, right? This is all interconnected. So there are different schools of thought that bring this all together, but we'll focus on a few and we'll walk through these. So we have yin and yang, we have the 5-element theory, qi and blood, and the 12 meridians. So getting into yin and yang, we have this principle that was pretty much dated back to the Yin dynasty and the Western Zhao dynasty. So the key concepts here, and if you've probably seen the symbol before, this is the correct way to look at it. We always have yang on top, so it's the white with the black in the middle, and then we have yin at the bottom, which is the black with the white in the middle. And the key concepts here is that there's 4 of them, and this is what we always think about, right? The opposite relationship of yin and yang. So they cannot be separated, but they are opposite. They're always together. The interdependence of yin and yang, they cannot exist without each other, right? So we have the mutual consuming. So you can see where it starts to get really thin at the top, right? And then at the bottom, this is them turning into each other. So they are always in a dynamic state. They're always moving together. And then the intertransforming of yin, again, at that point, they can transform into each other, but only on conditional basis. So it's kind of like, chicken eggs don't hatch unless it's under the right conditions. So we're kind of thinking of it in that way, right? So there's some basic elements here to yin and yang. So we have the light versus the dark. So you can't have light without having dark as well. Sun without the moon, right? Masculine without the feminine. Energy without matter. Clear without turbid. Strong without weak. Hot without cold. And then chi without blood. And so let's remember about chi and blood because we're going to talk about it a little bit later, right? So we're going to go into the 5-element theory. And so there's a lot to this, and you can see we have all of these different little bubbles here. These are all related to the elements in the meridians in our bodies, and even our organs. So when we look at this, our key concepts is like the use of earth elements to associate to organs in the body, and to understand our cycles of how these are working. So I have this a little bit bigger now. And here we can look at this, and we always start with liver at the top. So this is the element of wood. So our liver and gallbladder are both yin and yang organs. And so we look at the element of wood, and you can see like aspects of what this would look like. So we have these different attributes that are associated to our organs. So we have liver that has like eyes, our tendons, right? We have a taste, which is sour. We have the heart, and that goes into the heart, which has been a controlling or supporting. So you think about liver being wood, right? we can't really have fire without having wood. So we have the heart, we have the small intestine, which is a fire element. So we think about blood vessels, we think about joy as our emotion for the heart. And so without having wood going into fire, we cannot make earth. So our spleen and our stomach is earth. And so we think about our spleen and stomach, and they're very core in our medicine, especially with being after birth and what we eat and everything, and that's our nourishment to our bodies. So we think about our, stomach and earth being our like core essentially. And without earth, we cannot have metal, right? So if you're thinking about the generation of metal, it is being formed from earth. That's how we get our minerals, right? So the lung and large intestine are metal elements. And so we think about the air, we think about breathing, we think about autumn, we think about dryness. And without lung metal, we can't have water. So the kidney and urinary bladder is related to our kidney, or to the water element, because if you think about it, it's the most yin, it's the most cold, right? We can't have water, we can't have wood without having water. So this is just kind of like a big brief explanation of the 5-element theory, because it goes really, really deep into also how we treat as well, and how we look at how people present. So someone like I have more of a liver body type, so I have more tendon related issues where I'm like tight, I got to stretch more often, versus someone who has a heart body type that seems a little bit more like red in the face and stuff like that. So we have all these elements that really come back to the 5-element theory that help us with our treatment. So hopefully you guys aren't too overwhelmed yet. We're going to get into qi and blood. So qi is qi, which is pronounced as qi. It is the vital force which is believed to flow through the body along the routes known as meridians. Illness is attributed to changes in the qi flow. So we also have blood. So remember, it was qi is yang and blood is yin. The fluid that blood is the fluid that circulates in the hearts, the arteries, capillaries. It's our nourishment essentially. So when we think about qi and blood, we need to think about our key concept, which is qi is the commander of blood, and blood is the mother of qi. So qi is moving the blood, and blood is nourishing qi essentially. Like yin and yang, they cannot exist without each other. So this kind of gets into our 12 meridians now, and all of these last concepts really talk about what these meridians are in our body. And over here I have an image of what they kind of look like along our body. And so the principle was introduced in the Warring States in the Han Dynasty. Key concept is that everyone has 12 meridians. We have 6 yin, we have 6 yang. So the yin, again, we're going to talk about is the heart, spleen, liver, kidney, pericardium, and lung. And pericardium and Sanjiao is not in Western medicine considered an organ, but in Eastern medicine it is. In the yang, we have small intestine, stomach, gallbladder, bladder, Sanjiao, and large intestine. And so each of these meridians have associated points to activate qi along the path. So how does it work? So we have this wonderful comic here saying, tell me more about the acupuncture diet. Does it really work? And it does. So let's say you have some back, right? It's been hurting for some time. Now let's think about the back pain being a blockage on a road. So you can see over here we have the congestion, which happens in Russia. So we want to think about the road being the meridian and the blockage being the restricted qi flow. So what we do is we're inserting the needle into the affected area, which is the blockage, and stimulating specific points to activate the meridian and qi flow, which is the road. So stimulating this qi ensures the free flow of qi, and certainly clears up all the traffic jams. So we can think of it in that, right? But scientifically speaking, we're kind of looking at this that, it's being suggested that acupuncture points are strategic conductors of electromagnetic signals. So our body is basically electric, right? Our heart is if you think about a battery, our heart is a alternating current, and we're always moving, right? So when we're stimulating these points, it's enabling electromagnetic signals to be relayed at a greater rate, thus enhancing the flow of endogenous opioids that are responsible for reducing pain and promoting sleep. So we can kind of think about this like how acupuncture has the ability to really release endorphins in our body to help us relax, to help us to really relieve stress. And it's kind of like a natural painkiller, essentially, which really helps reduce all of the pain in the body. So what can it actually treat? And I tell everyone everything. Acupuncture, everyone's like, well, I don't have any pain. Well, come to me still. Because, acupuncture, when you're coming to someone to get treated, you're kind of at the point where you're like, not fixable, but, you could have prevented it maybe if you've gotten treated previously. Not to say that it's not going to be effective when you are getting treated when you are in pain, because it will be. But, I always say as a good preventative, as a good balancing act, you want to kind of get acupuncture done, or anything like, working out, stretching, stuff like that. So, while its effectiveness is varied per individual, some conditions that are treated can be like chronic pain, so back pain, neck pain, joint pain. We have gastrointestinal disorders. So I know a lot of people, and I was one of them, who had a gluten intolerance and could really eat a lot of gluten-based things. But now I can. I can't eat a lot of preservatives, but I have a lot of folks that have constipation or IBS or anything along those lines, right? So remember, we are treating the stomach and spleen as well, so we can really address those issues. We have neurological disorders, so people who have sciatica, multiple sclerosis, stroke recovery. They're very good with bringing back life into your neurons and your nerves and really stimulating that in these ways. Respiratory disorders, or have allergies, sinusitis, asthma is really good with addressing the lungs. Reproductive issues, I worked with a reproductive acupuncturist who only specialized in it when I first moved back here from New York. And she is incredible. She's been doing it for 20 years. She's based out of Cleveland, and I got to learn a lot about her process and all of her success stories over the 20 years and how women come to her as a last straw, and they walk out with a baby in 2 years, less than 2 years, really. But again, it's a lot of, kind of getting to know the patient, understand how they're living, what they're working with, their husbands, their lifestyles, stuff like that. So it's good for infertility, it's good for menstrual disorders, it's good for menopause, and mental health. And this is one that I kind of sit in the realm with with my treatments with anxiety, depression, PTSD, and addictions as well. And back in the 70s, when we were having the opioid crisis, there was a modality that really came out. It's called the NADA protocol. And it really helped folks who had addictions, and they could do acupuncture through their ear with 5 points. It would stop their addictions. And see these clinics happening, and it happened these clinics are still around. VA hospitals definitely still utilize acupuncture in this way as well. And so just a couple other things. We have immune support, we have headaches, migraines, cardiovascular support. So anything, I really treat something. So I want to open up the floor if anyone has any questions. That's pretty much my spiel.
First of all, thank you for your presentation. I found it very fascinating. Being a Westerner, learning about different techniques and different theories regarding our body and health, it just fascinates me. So I really do appreciate being here today and sharing that knowledge. My question to you is, when I'm listening to you, it sounds a lot like chiropractic. I have a good friend who's a chiropractor.
Yeah.
And he's always talked about like all the different things that can be solved. Again, preventative just through the adjustments, because again, our body is just like you said, it's big electromagnetic machine. Do you work in conjunction with chiropractors or something like that? I mean, how does that work? Or maybe just a little bit more information on
Yeah.
how the adjustment to the body and spine, and bones and so forth kind of play into the chi and meridians and all that.
Of course, yes. No, thank you for that question. It's a very good question. You will see a lot of times that chiropractors are working in conjunction with acupuncturists, or some chiropractors are getting a certification. It's not as intensive as ours, but they can do some dry needling as well. I don't also recommend dry needling, just because folks who are using needles only have had like a certain small amount of a certification for it, and it could probably more times than not injure more than actually help. But chiropractic work in itself is really because what they're doing is using the nerves along the body as well to realign things. I actually have a firsthand experience with working with an acupuncturist. I was going through school and getting treatments from him, and he's also teaching me his ways. And it's also just a very, you're meeting the patient where they are, and being able to help adjust where they need at the time. And it's kind of the same thing that we're doing, right? You're meeting the patient where they are at the time to really help adjust what they need at the time. And you know, the build up of what's happening to the point where they started to where they are to meet you, you can help kind of go back in time a little bit to help adjust. So chiropractic work is really profound, and it's not something that I'm too experienced in, but that I've had like, you know, firsthand physical experience with. And I actually, it's funny because I've been like kind of trying to find one around here that I would trust. And because I feel like I need to get something like cracked in my neck, you know. So I do suggest it, but it's also the thing finding the person that you. So yeah, hopefully that answered your question. Okay.
One of the things that came, hit me in the face again is how different Eastern medicine is from Western medicine. Dealing with whole systems requires a really different look at it, and getting used to the lingo is part of it. But instead of what I see has developed to the Western tradition that we're more used to, is you deal with one part at a time and you've got no clue about, what the other parts are doing that relate to that. And it's also reactive, not proactive. So I'm thinking about the number of indigenous communities around the planet that I've had the luxury of working with and experiencing, and the different way in which they look at their relationships with the earth as well as each other. And then it's a lot easier to follow. I don't let the names of the language get in the way. So my question is, how do you communicate to your patients or people who are not familiar with the use of the practices of Eastern medicine? How do you communicate that so they understand that you're dealing with a whole system and you're not dealing with it as if you could exert some kind of force on that one system without affecting the rest?
That's a great question. Thank you. Yeah, so I found that, I've, especially with like our presentation here, kind of making, and I've also have a background in design, fashion design, comics, illustrations. So I try to do like the comic thing, kind of like a visual representation really helps out for me. That's how I was like taught myself through school, where I'm studying a lot of visual representation. So kind of just showing that to folks. Or even just like, I think that the language comes around with who you're helping, right? And seeing the capacity that they have to which language you use. So a lot of the times I am talking about chi and blood, because those are our core elements here. But chi, I say it's just, it's our energetics, right? It's the flow. It's obstructed and we cannot move it. Or it won't move, right? So I think just kind of being aware of that it was language that I had to learn myself. I was in a minority school. So it was really difficult in that way in learning when I did not know the language of Taiwanese and Chinese. So it was it was a difficult thing to navigate. And so I don't want that to feel difficult with my patients or people who I'm reaching out to. So I try to make it accessible, especially.
So this is for. So I had a 38 college sports, and the regular doctors, it's either really powerful drugs or surgery. And people I know some people have had back surgery, it's really helped them. I know others had back surgery, they have to go back. And so I did see a chiropractor, and it really helped me. So to me, it works, however it works. But like you said, it's the same. I mean, so with herniated disc, it's very visible. You have pain in your leg, numbness in your foot, and you know it's not your leg or your foot. It's in the back. Oh, excuse that. So, and other people said, "Well, I've seen the chiropractor. It's helpful, fine." But and then the chiropractor I saw for chiropractic did have training at acupuncture, so he did that in a specific area, and that helped as well. So, from my point of view, it's not invasive, and it helps. And it's good to understand how it does it, but you don't, as a patient, you don't necessarily have to understand it to benefit. I just wanted to say that. So if someone is not being helped and they go to more conventional or something like that, but I would.
Thank you for sharing your experience. Yes. I think that herniated disc is definitely one of those things that we definitely treat as well. Injury comes more from surgeries too, so we try to address that as well.
Is this covered by Medicare and insurance?
Yes, so there are practitioners that do accept insurance. It's a full credentialing experience that I'm going through currently. They have certain things that they treat or accept it for, which primarily is back pain. So we would have to bill it as back pain. So there are acupuncturists who do accept it, and most acupuncturists don't. It's a full system in itself, but it can be. And the Cleveland Clinic, UH hospitals, they do have programs where they have acupuncturists, and that you can go to them as well.
Maybe you can help me understand the process. Talk a little bit about the preliminary preparation, the actual procedure, and then the follow-up. And can you give me a better idea of what the needle actually does?
Yeah, of course. Thank you for asking that. That's a very good question. So when I'm taking on a new patient, they usually call me, say I'm in pain, and I'm like, hey, we're at. So we kind of talk about it briefly, and then I can kind of have an idea when I'm seeing them that day. So what we do as practitioners is we meet with the patient initially at first for longer than our follow-ups are. And so what we're doing is we're asking you 1,000 questions. We're asking you things that don't even seem like it would be related to your pain. So we call that the 10 questions. So we're asking you about your diets, how your defecation is, how your urination is, how your sleep is, how your mood is, how, everything under the sun is that you probably don't think about to your day-to-day. And history of pain, history of medical history, everything in that. And so when we're asking these questions, we're starting to formulate what's kind of happening, right? And these questions, when I'm talking about the yin and yang, there's other things that kind of relate to what your symptoms could be. So when we're doing syndrome analysis, it's basically a whole like year of study. Syndrome analysis is how someone's approaching or showing up. So they're saying they're having back pain. It's going this way. It's sharp and it's stabbing, right? So for me, that's telling me it's blood stasis. So blood stasis is a more stabbing pain versus where if it was like hot and inflammatory, that would be more heat related. So I'm kind of as a practitioner, I'm kind of putting pieces to a puzzle together. You're giving me all of these syndromes, you're giving me all of the things that you've told me about, and I'm putting a piece together to kind of come up with the analytical base of what is happening in the syndrome analytic system. And so from there, we'll talk, I'll check your pulse. So on our wrists, on both sides, we have a radial pulse. There's 3 pulses that I'm checking, and they're related to organs. So the way that they're feeling is the way that your organs are kind of responding to your day, right, and how you are. So I can ask questions based off of that. So like, so this would be heart, this is liver, and this is kidney. And on the side, it is lung, spleen, and then kidney. And so if your spleen is feeling a little slippery, I could be like, oh, did you just eat? Or you having some digestion things. So this is another part of our diagnostics. And we're also looking at your tongue. So your tongue, when we have you stick out your tongue, it's kind of like one of this, there's a whole bunch of information that your tongue is telling. So every part of your tongue has an organ associated to the part of the tongue. So I can look at it and see if there's a crack down the middle, you might have some spleen stomach issues. If you have a red tip, you might think a lot, so there's like different things, elements that help with that syndrome analysis to help me confirm how I'm going to treat you. So then after that, I'm like, always make sure the patient is in the restroom because it's an hour. It's heavy on the table for like 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes, because that's how long it takes chi to circulate your body, 20 to 25 minutes. And we don't want to have a full bladder, especially if we're needling down here, just for precautions. And so what we're doing is if I'm addressing a certain thing, I'm using certain points for that syndrome. And that's a whole different discussion. They can get really deep into that. But so the needles, what they're doing is each point on the meridian is like a little activating point, right? So it's no more than a dime size is the range. So it's like this, like kind of small. And with that, it's activating the chi in that area. So each point has its own job, so to say. And especially from like the knee down, the elbow down, they're more powerful points. So a lot of times if you're just getting points done on your hands, you're like, oh, what are you doing? Like got like 4 needles. I mean, they're powerful. And they're moving specific things in your body. And like, even if you have pain up here and needling down on your foot, it's doing the same thing. It's actually probably more effective than needling up here. So patient is, relaxed. We have relaxed music going on, leave for a little bit, let you just kind of take an acting nap is what I call it. Get some rest. Then I come back and take the needles out, dispose of them. All the needles are single use. They're all sterilized. I don't use them ever again. I pitch them into a sharps container, never see them again. So everything is certified under, clean needle technique that I use. And, it just, the follow-ups and everything just depends, right? It depends on what is going on. So generally I see patients once a week. Sometimes it's severe pain, I try to see them twice a week. And it kind of, you'll see like progression. If you get better, we can do once a week and then every other week, once a month. It just really depends on the patient and what the case is. Trying to think if I'm missing. And then, follow-ups, I just, follow up just to check in and see how you're doing. And if something doesn't seem to have been resolved, we'll work on it, or it seems it's resolved, let's change it to something else, then we'll change up the method. So it really is, I can't really treat somebody virtually. It has to be in person because I'm doing all of these different techniques where I'm adjusting and assessing what's going on that day. So hopefully that answered the whole question. Okay. Thank you guys.
Well, that was fascinating. Really, really was. Thank you again for your presentation. So we're getting ready to wrap up our meeting today. So I'll open the floor for any announcements from our group, if there are any. Okay, I don't see. Of course, I'm not going to forget the Rotabuck. How could we forget that? We have everything up here for the Rotabuck. All right, so Rotabuck, our payout today is $3 and the jackpot is $161. So Shmitra, you will do the honors. Thank you. And the winning ticket is 133054. Oh, it's Warfield.
Make sure you report that on cash. Yeah.
$3 whopping dollars. It's in there. Not a winner. You're a winner in life though, Rich. All right, so the search continues for a winner. Oh, Brandon, here's your big payout, my friend. You'll spend it in one place. All right, so to end the meeting, it seems like every president has their way of ending a meeting. So I thought today I would just do a little bit of information regarding today in history for January 15th throughout the ages. So just kind of go in chronological order. So on this date in the year 1559, Elizabeth I was crowned Queen of England and Ireland in Westminster Abbey. I think we've all heard of Queen Elizabeth I. In 1929, civil rights leader Dr. Martin Luther King was born in Atlanta, Georgia. I know that we'll be celebrating his birthday here on Monday, but today is actually Dr. King's birthday. In 1943, work was completed on the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. Sports advocates probably know this one. In 1967, the Green Bay Packers beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the first AFL-NFL World Championship game, known retroactively as Super Bowl I. In 2001, Wikipedia, the free online encyclopedia, made its debut. So now our children and grandchildren will never have to know the joys of going to a library over the weekend and work on a paper. And then finally, in 2006, U.S. Airways Captain Chelsea Sully Sullenberger landed an Airbus A320 safely in the Hudson River after striking a flock of birds that disabled both engines shortly after takeoff. All 155 people on board survived. Sully. So again, that is some of the main events that have occurred on January 15th throughout history. So with that, and with nobody else needing to take the floor, I will call this meeting of the Hudson Rotary Club adjourned.